McCree VOD. McCree Widow, HGVT. What does he say about it? I feel like I'm not having enough impact. I guess it is an issue with my positioning, especially on this map, not giving me opportunities to pressure enemy backline. So we're talking about McCree, and you're already talking about pressuring enemy backline. It's a bit of an interesting statement. More Blizzard World, actually. Another Blizzard World VOD. Okay. A 6-stack. Look at this. I wonder if this is an LFG group. Okay. Platinum. McCree. Smile. Okay. Platinum McCree. Let's check it out. See what you got for us, bud. See what you got for us.
Thank you.
Justice ain't gonna dispense itself.
So right,
Should
you
I
could be
go
like me.
Orisa instead, then? Orisa and Ryan is not my best tank heroes, but...
I'm not one for
Sounds
standing
LFG.
around.
I mean, if you feel confident with it, then yeah, go ahead. But I mean, I'm quite happy with your D that play. I thought you were really good, so I don't mind.
Isn't McCree a really bad pick here? Actually, no. Everything is basically within McCree's fall off here. Also, you can retreat out to Ali, and Ali can be threatened by flankers. And the McCree pick is fine here. Dallas's composition, Dallas's standard defense composition during Stage 4 on Blizzard World did involve a McCree.
Alright.
I'd say Orisa probably suits the map words better. But hey ho.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
A chance to focus.
Dipstick, 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 dipstick. You're welcome.
Watch and look.
You guys are a bunch of memers, are you?
I admire the way you feel with Hitbox.
Where are we starting, guys?
Not if you were the
Watch
last
and
human on Earth.
So, oh, I just barely missed it.
Guys.
Not if you were the
Watch
last
and
human
look.
on Earth.
So, Diva Zarya, not great. And one of the reasons that Diva and Zarya don't really work that well together is you have to be really careful about not kind of doubling up on resources. And the fact, what does a Zarya do when she has a bunch of damage coming her way? Well, she bubbles. What does the Diva do? Well, she defense matrix. And if you both do it at the same time, one of you is going to be pissed. So, and it also gives you like no front line. And if the opponent has any sort of shield themselves, then they're going to be able to poke you out, which sucks. But you do have a Junkrat, which can be decent as long as they're not playing, like if they are playing any sort of shield composition like Reinhardt, that's good here on Blizzard World. I'm never going to complain about Mercy Zenyatta. And then you are on McCree. So without a very strong front line, you're not going to have a shield to actually, use to plink at people. So ironically, actually, you may want to be setting up crossfires or looking for angles to, threaten, if not hard flank, and just go from there. But no front line is rough.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah, Zarya could be Orisa.
Attackers incoming.
The Diva could be Reinhardt.
Defend
Or
objective A.
the Junkrat could swap as well. But Junkrat's still pretty good. And they have a shield. So you're going to be wanting to look... Because you're never going to win the shield war, you almost never want to be shooting at that shield, right? So if you... When we're thinking about the purpose itself, if they have a shield and you don't, if you are trying to fight their shield, you're putting them at an advantage. Because every piece of damage that you're putting into the shield is, at the same time, if there was a McCree on the other team, would be being put into one of your actual teammates. So if they have a shield and you don't, you can't try and actually defeat the shield. You have to play around the shield. Night, Solas. So actually kind of like staying in that angle there can be very, very, very useful. There's a few things. Let's jump into let's jump into the game. Let's jump into it. You already got me on a tangent. It's just going to be easier to demonstrate this, right? And I want to teach you how to flank without flanking. That's only the really thing I want to teach you. Where the fuck is McCree now? So,
Justice ain't gonna dispense itself.
what if, if the opponent flanking or applying pressure to a flank, flanking implies that you're going somewhere that allows you to arrive at the flank. But if you ever find opportunities where you can pressure a team's flank without really putting yourself out of position, it can be really, really strong here. So right here, the Reinhardt was coming up main, and then when he transitioned up into this area, you went back onto point, and you're going to fight him from here. But if you had stayed here, the Reinhardt's backline is going to have to cross this area as well. Which is one of the things that makes it very challenging to actually cross open or contested territory in a position like this, especially if you're on the high ground or something like this. This is challenging, and teams have to talk about exactly how they're going to transition through contested territory, or else they're going to get fucked. Like, if you were here, you would be able to see everyone as they transition to the point. But instead, you met the Reinhardt, so you are fighting where they are strong, and then since they rotated to point, you continue to fight where the opponent was strong. And we're going to go Sun Tzu on your ass here and say, you strike where your opponent is weak. It's, it's not some weird Taoist bullshit or anything like that. It's just sincerely the optimal way to play the game. So if their Reinhardt is blocking your damage, ignore the Reinhardt. And you could have just stayed here and caught them in transition. And the other thing is that if we are here... Anyway, so in order to go from here, the opponent's flank, and here, the opponent's front line, is basically just a combat roll away. And you can open this angle up very safely. If they have a Zenyatta or something, or a Hanzo, this is going to be challenging, but you don't know if they have that. And if they don't, you can just do this, and then if you want to retreat, you can be like, whoop, and you're right back to the front line. So this is a very, very soft and easy flank. In the same way, if you were on the attack, and you wanted to find an opportunity or something like this, you could go and you could stick with your Reinhardt and, fight their Reinhardt from this angle. Or, if you wanted to be right off the bat, not only could you get some scouting, but if you peeked right, and like somebody was hiding here, just boom, flash, boom, they're dead. Something like that. If they have a backline there, you can grab the attention of their backline, and then maybe if you force them back into arches, that means their front line, which is here, is going to be exposed to your front line. So little things like here, like the Zarya that we were looking at, the Master Zarya that we were just looking at, because the Zarya was holding here, right? Because the Zarya was holding here, the location of their backline was constantly exposed. And this is what I was talking about trying to push up against people who can control sight lines. So if we're onto Widowmaker instead... Thanks, Silly Leaf. I appreciate it. And I forgot to read subs out, didn't I? I'll have to do that in just a moment. The McMuffin with $5 says, I know I don't need to donate for this, but I wanted to give you compensation because of your insight you give. Besides your stream, what's the best way to learn the common different comps and their strengths and weaknesses? If it's watching pro right now, I'm working with like making some guides about compositions and whatnot, but right now talking to people, grandmasters, or watching contenders or Overwatch League is probably the best way. And either to ask other people, are you watching, like the viewing parties, or hear what the casters call things. But anyway, yeah, so the Zarya, the Master Zarya that we were taking a look at was pressed all the way up with the Reinhardt here. And where was their backline? Their backline was back there. And then, so if you're a Widowmaker on attack and you're holding here, not only do you have these sightlines onto point, but you have these sightlines onto the backline. So now, we know where the Ryan and the Zarya was, we know where the Widowmaker was, and if you're a Zenyatta or a Mercy, and you see a Widow here, but your Ryan and Zarya is sitting there, what do you do? What do you do, chat? Move up? If you move up, then the Widowmaker can drop to this location and slowly corral you and keep cutting off these angles until you are completely corralled into this tiny little location, and then you're all fucked. You can't move in. That's going to get you killed. If you move out of line of sight, the Zen's going to be able to contribute, but the Mercy's not going to be able to. Click on the Widow's heads. You know, you could, I guess, transition onto the high ground up the stairs. But then the Widow's still a threat. You know, she can still shoot you from there. So high ground wouldn't be the worst thing ever, but you'd still have to transition there. But yeah, if you get into this situation, there's just so many opportunities for you to get fucked by people that control sightlines. And kind of this ring around the rosy, this Blizzard World point is not linear. These opportunities don't exist on linear maps, but sometimes they do. Sometimes. And this same opportunity happens a lot of the time on Kings.
Now entering King's Row.
So this is one of the... You can do it on McCree. You could do... Well, we'll show McCree since this is a McCree VOD. But you want to be looking for not low effort flanks, but flanks that can expose the backline to you, that don't take a lot of time to get into position, and are very easily escaped from if you get pressure. So what you could be doing is you could be attacking the Reinhardt here, and you could just be forcing them back into alley. But if their Reinhardt is pushed up, you know, if their Reinhardt is holding here, which is a pretty common spot, and your Reinhardt is fighting them, instead of trying to assist with the Reinhardt v Reinhardt fight, you can just come through here, and then boom, their backline is exposed. And what do they do here? If a McCree has taken a hotel from you, and your Reinhardt is pushed up onto this corner, what do you, as a Zenyatta, who's sitting here, do? What do you do? If you're a Zenyatta, your Ryan and Zarya are pushed up by statue, and there's a McCree who just came through hotel. What do you do? Win the 1v1. That's basically your best option. If you back off, you're useless. If you push in, you're dead. And if you push in, you basically kill your team too, because they can completely just surround you. You're exerting no map control. You're all in the same place, and they can invest all of the resources into a single sightline, all their attention to one spot, where you know, it's the saying, which general was it? Which American general says, "We're surrounded. Good. It means we can attack in any direction." Not so the case. Not so the case. Shouldn't your Zarya kindly peel to help the Zen? Even if the Zarya does bubble the Zenyatta or something like that, then what the Zarya is going to have to do is, as soon as the bubble wears off, the Zen is back in danger. So the Zarya is going to go make this McCree just fuck off. And then, but having done that, the McCree, even if they didn't get any kill, now not only took a personal bubble from the Reinhardt, but also grabbed the attention of the Zarya and the Zenyatta. So there's a lot of resources that got expended into a McCree who just says, oh, I guess I didn't get any value. And he's right back at the front line. And suddenly their front line has become a lot weaker because they had to invest resources and attention into a flank that took no effort from the McCree. I don't remember which general. Was it Patton? Patton sounds correct. But what if the Zen plays with his team? Then he's in danger of a lot of other sources, like the Rhine as well. So, just some things to think about. Low effort. Low effort is not the right word for it. But being able to very quickly kind of just peek from a new angle, like even if you're a Zenyatta, doing this is so impactful. Low risk flanks. There's a lot of flanks that are low risk, but they still take a lot of time though. Simple flanks, low commitment flanks. I'll find a term for it. But if you're a Zenyatta, pew, 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 pew. Back to the team. Something like that. You know, as Brigitte, I do this on Brigitte, because if ever I catch, like, you know, the upside, you catch somebody out of position, not paying attention to you, bam, bam, bam. If you don't get the kill, you at least get resources, and you are never in any danger as well. You even have the mini as you retreat. So. Easy clap. Easy clap. soft flanks? Soft flanks. I like that term. We'll go with soft flanks. That will be the term that we go with. We will coin that soft flanks. Okay. So you are McCree. You are attacking their shield when you don't have a shield. But before we get into this, I did miss subs between the two videos, so I'm going to do them now. Miko, OW with the tier 1 for 2 months in a row, has started to review VOD in my OW community, and watching you has helped a lot. Much love. Thanks, Miko. Old Moon with the $3 says, do you believe in tapping? Do you believe in tapering for Overwatch players? Reducing intensity before a set. Asking as a swim coach, taking up coaching Overwatch as a hobby. I would be interested to discuss this, but I have no familiarity with tapering. Flogic, resubscribed tier 1 for 2 months in a row, says, hey Jayne, I was watching one of my VODs as Widow and noticed my aim doesn't reset to where it was after I flick like most pros do. Is that a bad thing? Where it was after the flick? Like flick 2 and then back? No, you want to flick to a target. The only time... Like, there's a couple different flick styles, too, in that if a person is using, like, a wrist aim or something like that, if you, like, bend your wrist out of position, you want to reset your wrist into a natural position, where if you're doing, like, an arm flick, then there's no point in putting your arm back into the location it was. So we'll use an ultralight for this demo. Come here, ultralight. Right? So if I'm holding a mouse like this, and if you're a wrist aimer and you flick with your wrist, then you want to reset your wrist back to neutral. But if it's only a tiny flick, then you don't want to just like arbitrarily reset. And if you're if you're flicking with your arm, then you also don't want to flick to a target and then flick back, because that's a completely unnecessary motion. Guy Tyler with the Prime sub. Bizerk with the tier 1 for 2 months row says, Jayne, for attack on Blizzard World, would be good to flank through the mega room with the high ground and come from the mega room with the high ground and come from the arches. You mean snacks? Like over here? That's... Is there a mega in there? I thought it was a mini. Which mega are you talking about? Oh, you mean the mega on the right flank. For attacking Blizzard, would it be a good idea to flank through the mega room with the high ground and come from arches to pinch rather than coming from statue? Yes, you can do that. You wouldn't want to do it as a team, though, but sending one flanker that route is fine. Lettuce is good with the Prime sub. Zach with the tier 1. Silly Leaf with the dinner best says, it's 2 a.m. and I'm going to bed. Have some bits. Thanks, bud. Tree982. B-Monkey. Big Uncle Grav. Frozen Droid. Sarojal with a tier 3 for 3 months in a row. Welcome back, Sarojal. 3 months of lurking. Thanks for the streams and tournaments. Really helping me improve at Overwatch. Jayne love. Much love to you, Saro. Thanks for supporting the stream. Project Memo with a Prime for 2 months in a row. Cryptographer. Is it cryptographer or cryptographer? It's spelt weird. With the tier 1 for 4 months roast is an extravagance of errors. Mad Max with the tier 1 for 2 months roast is 2 months pog. Love your streams. Keep it up. Yes, sir. Okay, let's keep playing. Yoinks!
Behind us now.
Widow.
Mercy's missing.
Widow low.
Well, now.
Looks like they were just blind there.
I'm stuck. I'm dead.
I'm losing my voice for some reason.
Yeah, this hasn't gone so well.
We might need a Winston for that Genji, to be honest.
Could be useful for sniper as well.
We are using a very ranged comp here, which kind of means Zarya's not going to work very well. She wants to brawl, really.
Now, one of the tricky things on Widowmaker is that, well, really on any DPS character themselves, is that you don't want to let your shitty mechanics dictate your play. Is that even if you're, you know, I say this, but I'm going to kind of like I'm going to put an asterisk on it. In the fact that if you have bad mechanics, you can't compensate for your bad mechanics with bad positioning. However, how aggressive you can go and how much of a risk you can take is based on how comfortable you feel with your mechanics. So if we say this is normal, if this is normal, normal actions, normal positioning, or anything like that, even if your mechanics are over here, which we're going to consider absolute shit, even if your mechanics are shit, you still need to play like normal. However, if you have better than average mechanics, aggro. Is aggro with 2 G's? Aggro? Or just one? Fuck. I don't know how to... What is the short form of aggro? Anyway. Depending on your actual mechanics. Okay, chat is spelling it 2 different ways as well. Aggro. So if you are playing normal compared to aggro, how aggressive you can be is how good your mechanics are past normal. But there's always going to be like a base state of play that you should not go below because you have poor mechanics. So even if you can't hit your shots or whatnot, or not nearly as many, so if you have a 40% accuracy on Widowmaker instead of a 60% accuracy, you don't want to limit your options because that will make you even less impactful on the fight. So just because your mechanics are shitty doesn't mean that you should play it safe, is what I'm trying to say.
Genji left
Just don't
side.
go for high-risk, high-reward plays if you're not confident in your own mechanics.
Can you top? I mean, Widow on top. Jesus.
Nice shot.
Nice.
Okay, so give me a second here. Let's open up Stat Banana. I haven't had to open up Stat Banana for a while, but we're going to do it. Because sightlines are important. So you have a front line, and the payload is here. So the payload's about here. So the payload is here, and, you know, your front line is in this general. This is where the kind of like the fight is happening. So if we assumed that both teams had Reinhardts, we'll assume that there's a Reinhardt here, and your Reinhardt is like here or something like that. No, not that. Your Reinhardt is not shielding. He's shielding the opponent team, not your team, or anything like that. So we've got these 2 Reinhardts here. Now you on Widowmaker were located here. So if the opponent is here, that means that your sight line is this direction, right? But the problem with this location on Widowmaker is the fact that you are sharing a sight line, or if you're not going to consider it a sight line, you can consider it a direction of attention. Because sightline would be considering like you to target. But if we're considering it more of what the target has to pay attention to, the target has to pay attention to your front line and you, both in the same direction. However, remember what we were talking about with these flankings and applying different angles. If this giant turret thing, if you had moved yourself into this location, not only are you on the high ground, but you still have your grapple to retreat, assuming you can get into position. If we're back to the point where the, your Reinhardt is here and the opposing Reinhardt is here, now, if their Reinhardt pushes up from here to here, so if their Reinhardt pushes up on your Reinhardt, then this entire backline area is going to become more exposed to your shots. And this prevents the opponent's Reinhardt from really pushing very far forward at all. It draws attention to you, even if you're not landing your shots, that are resources that cannot be applied to your Reinhardt anymore. So, one of the things is that if we're playing like a double sniper composition, for example, so a really good kind of like double sniper comp, let's reset this. So let's delete this. Delete all frames. So we'll hold... So what happens if a Reinhardt is holding, let's say, this corner right here? So, and we'll say this is actually going to be red team. So we'll say that this is going to be red team. So red team is holding this corner. The payload is here. And you are Blue Team Reinhardt, who's pushing the actual payload itself. And you have 2 snipers. You have 2 snipers. You have a Hanzo and a Widowmaker. Where do the Hanzo and the Widowmaker go? So if the Hanzo plays behind the shield, you know, it can help. But if the Reinhardt gets too much pressure, he can just take 1 step to the right. So, you know, if the snipers are playing behind like this, so we'll say it's here. So if the snipers are playing like this and then they move up to here, then the Reinhardt is just going to take a little step to the side and then just kind of hide and use natural cover to keep themselves alive and whatnot. So this is going to be how it's going to work if your snipers play main behind your shield. You're going to move up, and the Reinhardt, if he needs to, is just going to recover, and the opponent can rotate, you know, into cover, whether the cover is on the right or the high ground or whatever. So instead of doing that, what you can do is if the Reinhardt is going to this location to meet your Reinhardt, instead, if you place your Widowmaker either onto the turret's a good spot, and then your Hanzo flanks here, and then to this door. So if instead we have a team set up like this, where the Reinhardts go to meet each other, but then we have the 2 snipers. We have the Hanzo at the little door, and we have the Widowmaker on the high ground. And let's say the Reinhardt shield looks like this. So if the Reinhardt shield is here, this Widowmaker can control this territory, and this territory, and this territory. Whereas the Hanzo can apply pressure to this territory, and if he needs to, he can use the dildo as cover to pressure this territory. So the Reinhardt, whose job it is to actually create space, can't do shit. And if this Reinhardt moves around this corner to try and stabilize, guess who has a perfect line of fire? And if the Reinhardt tries to push up, that means that he can do literally fucking diddly shit against his backline. His backline is going to be distracted. The Reinhardt is not going to have any resources invested into him because they're too worried about not getting a bullet or an arrow to the face, and the team is going to fall apart. So you have to, even if you don't, and the other beauty about this is that in this position here, this is a low ground here, right? So can we remove roof? How do we remove rooftops? Layer, roofs. Aw. Anyway, the thing is that there's actually a mega here. Health packs. Health packs? Health packs, right? So this is kind of like 2 layers. It's showing us the Griffin layer, but there's a mega here. So if the Hanzo gets pushed, that gives the Reinhardt a free shatter. It gives the Widowmaker opportunities to push up even farther if she needs to. And then the Hanzo can retreat to the Mega. If the Widowmaker gets pushed, she still has her grapple. She can fight, she can venom, and then she can just drop back to her supports. So this is how you flank. You don't flank in ways that you can actually be killed and punished. The best way for you to flank is to apply as much pressure from a different sight line with as little effort as possible on your part, and as little risk on your part as well. How could this be beaten? The only way that you beat this setup is basically by outdueling them with the snipers. This is if you let, so not only, this is also the difference between taking space, making space, and so take, make, and claim. So if there's 2 Widowmakers, red and blue, you can take the space, you can claim the space if it's uncontested, and then the opponent has to put in a disproportional amount of effort to try and take that space from you. Because a Widowmaker could, I guess, kind of try and grapple up to fight you, which would be really awkward. But basically, the Widowmaker is going to have to outduel this Widow before they can take the space themselves. And tanks are really the only ones who can make space. They can move into an area without it being unclaimed. So there's a difference between claiming space, so you don't want to leave this space in general unclaimed. But if it is, then you need to take it from the opponent. And if you had like dive, you could make the space with a Winston. Or a Diva. So a Winston or a Diva. Diva, where are you? Could take the space from the Widow. Make space. Make space. I've just recently been trying to use those 3 words to explain things to teams, so I'm still not practiced with using them in explanations. But anyway, but yeah, in the same way, if we go to Nepal Shrine, which is also my one of my favorite maps. Nepal Shrine. I love this map. Nepal Shrine is so great for so many examples. Consider the following. Apparently we're Bill Nye now. Consider the following. Two tracers. Blue team tracer. Of course, they're right next to each other. And red team tracer. And then we'll say, well, we'll just leave it at the tracer example. So this space in general is called shrine because this is a shrine. This is a shrine. So off of the initial rollout for tracers themselves, if one tracer makes it to this space first, claiming the space takes no effort at all. But if this red tracer arrives second, they're going to have to try and fight for this area to actually take the space from the blue tracer. So claiming space is free, taking space is not. And if you do control this area and the tracer is forced to retreat and go to the main, if the opponent tries to actually take the point, then if, let's say, what would be a good example? What would be a good character to flank with on this left side? Previously, it was Sombra, but more commonly Sombra. We'll just assume this is a few metas ago, where you would have had Sombra hack the Mega and then contest this left side. So if you do actually want to control both of these flanks themselves, and you claim this space, the tracer's like, fuck, I can't go in here without actually fighting you. You know, the tracer of duels. You invest resources to go to the megas, and then you like keep this space claimed themselves. The tracer goes back to main. If they push onto point first, apparently we're using a fucking massive marker. If they push onto point first, this is good. Because if your team, your front line is here, they have corralled themselves into this horseshoe shape, right? You as the tracer controlled this right flank. The Sombra controlled this left flank. And now because they got greedy and attempted to take the point first, both of your flanks can assault them from either side. And not only can you attack them from this side, but let's say for some reason you put more effort into this left side. So let's say that you actually have 3 people here and 2 people here instead of just 5 and 1, or 4 and 1 or something like that. That means that their optimal solution is to try and rotate to face this side. However, if they do that, that means their backline is going to want to rotate into this area, and if they're going to want to retreat, they're going to retreat onto you. And they can't retreat onto controlled space. They can't do that. They're going to get just absolutely destroyed. So, if you had done it the exact opposite way, where you controlled both flanks, and then your Reinhardt and Zarya, for example, So you're Reinhardt, for some reason you're playing Tracer, Sombra, Reinhardt. Don't fucking question it. For some reason you're playing Tracer, Sombra, Reinhardt. If your Reinhardt goes aggressive and doesn't even hold at half, but holds at basically entrance, I don't know what this specific area is called, like basically the top of their stairs, then suddenly the space that you have claimed is no longer valid. And assuming that the Tracer has this red room, so this is called red and this is called green. So it's because there's green carpets on this side and red carpets on this side. I'm not sure if you ever knew that, but there's red carpets on this side, green carpets on this side. So these rooms are called red and green, respectively. But anyway, so if your front line pushes up and takes control of the point, you claimed this space, but suddenly this space is no longer useful. So you have the option of moving up onto the opponent's flank here, where you have suddenly given the opponent a crossfire on you. Or the second option is, although you claimed space for free, you're not using that advantage, and you have to take the space from the flank being controlled by the opponent. And the Sombra has to fight to take that flank so that you get that advantage as well. So if you do actually have flank advantage, it's best not to remove your options and have the opponent... Whenever I'm talking about corralling an opponent, I'm talking about this horseshoe shape and putting the opponent right in the fucking center. Because they can't move, they can't rotate, their attention is split while yours is focused. This horseshoe shape is how you just fucking demolish teams. And this is also why some really good teams in solo queue can just seem like, and you know, grouping up as 6, unless you're doing something really coordinated like goats, for example. If you're just like, okay, everyone group up, and you like really truly all group as 6, you are ceding all map control, all scouting. There are so many factors that you cede to an opponent by really truly grouping as 6 that it's unbelievable. But let's apply this knowledge. Let's apply this knowledge to an Overwatch League game. We're going to look at something, a game that... We'll look at something from yesterday so that you know I haven't looked at it before. We'll just pick randomly. Spoilers, I guess, if you care. Apologies. Let's pick Junkertown.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live from the blue. So, but he misses his chance.
Because Carpe's right over there.
I'm just going to let it play until we find a third-person perspective.
He's gonna camp that body, and now he's looking for the aggressive angle. He knows the striker's over here, right around the corner, right out into the open, but he misses his chance.
Give me a damn third person.
It's in a tough spot. Sato took a ton of damage.
For Philadelphia.
Seems like it's... They knew where Carpe was. Let's take a look.
25.
Give me a damn third person.
So from his perspective now, place.
Out of the fight, not a position where they can resurrect. So now it's going to be 5v6 for the moment.
Oh. Did we get it? Come on. Just pan a little bit to the left.
Exactly. Cut off from the rest of his team. He does manage to dodge back out of harm's way, and they will get the reset.
Okay, good enough, though. Good enough. Oh, there's a good one. There was a good third person.
Place.
And they'll give up ground. They'll play around the house and then try to shell in.
There we go.
Over the top with this.
Okay. So I don't know why the video is absolute trash. Maybe it's because I'm skipping around so much. Okay, here we go. So here we have this option, okay? So, one of the things that you want to do, especially on Junkertown, is control the flanks. So there's a couple different flanks. The first flank is going to be this one. This one's called Stables. Stables. And then this one is called Coast. Coast. Okay, and then this is mains. There's a couple different flanks themselves. But try and just take a second and think how each team would be controlling each angle and each possible threat. So, for example, if the attacking Widow, Striker, moves Coast, how does Fusion contest this? And what does their tank core do? And why is Fusion holding this angle? What is beneficial about this angle, and why would they not hold in front of it? So why hold here compared to here? Think about it with context with what we just talked about, the Nepal Shrine. It's not just if shield breaks they have cover, but what happens if they lose control of Coast? Cover for Coast. And right now they're not contesting anyone on stables because they know there isn't anyone at stables. But just let's watch a little bit of this VOD and watch the push and pull of how different people are going to try and scout and pressure different flanks.
We taking their time with it.
Let's look here. Mistakes. Looking to see if he has an opportunity to flank on the right side.
Passive hold, letting Boston make
He sees a
quite a
Diva.
bit of progress
He sees a
before the fight takes
Widowmaker.
place.
He's not going to go for it. He's returning to his team. Shadow's holding his corner. Dayfly is holding the right side, pushing a little bit in. Dayfly's out there to try and protect Coast from Striker, but Dayfly moved in, so Striker looked for an angle. Dayfly's going to come back to pressure Striker, though. Still trying to find those angles. Dayfly's like, I'm not letting you have this angle for free. And there, look, Carpe on the left flank, trying to find an angle on the back line of the Boston Uprising.
Where they can resurrect.
You know, pressures him out. Striker's got a sight line. Carpe's like, didn't find an opportunity. He backs off.
So now it's going to be 5v6
Now it's pressuring right. Dayfly's still on the left in contest with Striker and Neko, and EQO is moving as well. Look at these. These are all soft flanks everywhere. And both teams simultaneously are trying to redistribute resources to ensure that they don't lose control of a flank.
Yeah, they're getting cut in half
So as
here,
soon
too.
as you lose control of a flank, you get surrounded and you die.
Striker has to be careful, does not want to get exactly cut off from the rest of his team. He does manage to dodge back out of harm's way, and they will get the reset here.
There's
Boston.
Mistakes. Look, Mistakes scouting right again.
Gotta give it to Hotbuzz.
Mistakes scouting right
Well,
again.
just throwing himself in there bodily,
And Hotbuzz looking left.
keeping the fight there. Philly.
Dayfly's still right. He's still
Creating
contesting the
opening
right
out of
flank.
the
Dayfly's even moving in. Dayfly sees an opportunity. Dayfly is no longer contesting. He's moving in on the
That
right
kill,
side.
that key kill.
He's found a hook. He missed his hook. He needs to retreat. So Dayfly found an opportunity, but he fucked it up.
Neko tries to get
So
himself.
now we're back to kind of just posturing around mid, and neither team really wants to push in. Because if either team pushes past this moment, right? We have laid battle lines. The front lines midpoint is here. The flank midpoint is here on stables, and the flank midpoint here on coast. So if Philly pushes in, suddenly the space that has been claimed by the Boston Uprising can be used as flanks against the aggressors. If the Boston Uprising tries to push into the tank core, then the space that has been claimed by Dayfly can be used against them. So the tank core fight here cannot be resolved without, like, you can do some things like getting picks. For example, Halt Hook. Halt Hook is a great way to break a tank core stalemate without having to overextend into opponent territory. Right? So if you can use the Halt and Hook to drag somebody into your territory, you can now punish them. Otherwise, you're going to have to either like break their shield to make them give up space, but even if you break the shield to give up space and you don't have control of flank, you can't pursue because they're just going to reset up here, and if you try and push in, boom, you're in a crossfire. You can't do it. So let's keep watching. Keep watching. Keep trying to pay attention. How are these flanks being contested? How are they being scouted? Because not only is it important to contest the flanks, but flanks provide information to what the opponent is doing.
On the carpet, he eats a grenade, so he has to go and heal himself back up before he can do that. Carpe in a very passive position.
There's a
He's
very
putting
aggressive
some
rotation.
damage onto the Bastion.
So Boston moves all of their resources onto coast. Philly rotates, and the new battle lines are here.
You set up around the bend now.
And you see Dayfly moving to contest the new flank.
Oh, this isn't looking too hairy here. Mistakes finding the kill on EQO. Will get rezzed immediately by Neptuno.
Look at Dayfly. Look at Dayfly. He's already on that new flank, scouting for information, looking for opportunities, drawing attention, and this is a soft flank. The opponents cannot turn and kill him.
And Carpe on this high ground right now, not really finding too many targets. Here's the tire, though. This could be a big one. They are kind of grouped up here, Boston. There is a chance for EQ to get value. Looking for the point-blank shot, and finds the kill on Nako. Further to...
And there's Dayfly. He found his opportunity, and he can back.
This is...
And look at Carpe, right? So Boston, by pathing left, forced the rotation of the Philadelphia Fusion. And when I talk about the rotation, if you think the battle line originally was located in this orientation, the line itself rotated for the new battle line to be drawn like this. Now, Carpe is contesting the right flank from his perspective, and Dayfly is contesting the left flank from this perspective. This was like, I don't really like this rotation from the Boston Uprising because Mistakes and Neko were basically operating off of the same sightline here, and where's Striker? And like, so all three of the primary threats from Boston Uprising became a lot more kind of centralized, and this is almost like Philadelphia does almost get the encirclement. And I picked this VOD randomly. Remember that.
This is just going to delay everything here for Boston. 2 minutes on the clock for them.
As a really nice hook there.
Dayfly, is he going to survive?
No, now he's going to whole hog. Finish up the rest of this fight.
Striker beats Carpe in the duel, though.
They're going to get the halt onto Kellex. Is he going to live through this? No, chased down by Hatba.
Micro missiles making the difference. Mistakes trying to get some progress on
And
the
this is just
payload.
chaos at this
Not gonna
point.
be good enough, though. They're getting staggered here by Boston right now. They're running back in one.
So this is, at this point in time, the fight is at a devolved state. Also, good to see you, Arrow. If you have anything to add about rotations and flank contests and whatnot, feel free to chime in, bud.
After another, they need to try and find a reset. Mistakes even commits a dragon into this fight.
I mean, Dragon is an ultimate that you can charge relatively quickly. Neptuno pulls up the blaster, takes down Mistakes. Neptuno just does things that most Mercies
They're still not quite regrouped yet, but
would not dare attempt.
They are getting a little bit of extra progress, though. Gamsu trying to keep it alive here for his team. They've cut Dayfly off from the rest of them. So Philadelphia Fusion loses.
anyway, so I think you get the. I'm pretty sure chat gets the point. Let's go back to Stat Banana though. Rotations and pathing. And this is, if you want to learn more about pathing and rotations, I actually have a video on my YouTube. You can just search rotations on my YouTube. But so if, let's just say that we'll just consider a Ryan and a Zarya, or sorry, a Ryan and a Zenyatta to consider orientation. So this is generally front, and Zenyatta is going to be the back of a team. And Ryan likes linear engagements. They like front back. They don't like high grounds. They like front back. Just if your shield could cover the entire territory, perfect. Ryan would love that. But if an opponent paths to the right, then you rotate to meet their new battle lines that they have selected by moving your Ryan to the right and your Zenyatta to the left. But if the opponent does not have the scouting or the information early enough to know that this is going this way, and you're like this, and they have a Lucio, for example, and you don't notice them until here, this can allow them to get right on top of your backline. So being all in one place removes your scouting and can also prevent you from doing what little rotation you have. But actually, I think this is going to be way too large of a tangent for a simple McCree VOD. But anyway. Questions about that? Could you repeat all that? God damn it. What is this tool? This tool is called Stat Banana. This tool is called Stat Banana. And actually, Stat Banana contacted me, and they're adding a layer for callouts. And I'm talking with Stat Banana about how we can make a standard list of universal callouts. So maybe that's because hopefully at one point we can get this program to have a callout layer that you could activate and it would just label everything. And so I've I have sent the message offering for them to, like, I would probably bring in a couple coaches, maybe OWL contenders coaches, and then they would suggest names for things, and then chat would vote on that, so that we could actually have one central source for callouts. Customizable callout list would be sweet too. But anyway, so this is called Stat Banana. Any other questions? Someone has already made a big centralized callout name thing. Yeah, but if it's not accepted by the contenders OWL guys, it's never going to be official. Anyway. Let's look at more McCree Widow. Nice shot. Nice little flank. I like this. Unlockers.
Pressing.
One of the things you can do when an opponent has sights is just pretend to peek them.
Sniper right.
Great shot. You're not going to touch, though, are you?
Nice shot.
C9 lost. But yeah, so if you are fighting another Widowmaker and they activate sights and you don't have sights yourself, one of the things you can do is constantly like scope in, scope out, like look like you're about to peek, but never actually peek, because the Widowmaker can't really risk it. If the positioning dictates such that you can control whether the duel happens or not, the opposing Widow doesn't have the opportunity of not paying attention to you. So you can just sit there. You can just sit there and pretend to be looking for an opportunity to duel and just fucking waste their advantage. And then we're back to McCree. Nice. Remember to talk about their positioning? Are you kidding me? That entire fucking tangent was on positioning. Come on, Pavels.
Reaper behind.
Genji's on me.
You're also way closer to things than you should be. This happened on first point, and this happened on third point here as well. You just get way too close to things. And when you're closer to things, it's also going to make it more difficult for you to actually hit things, because they will physically move across your screen at a faster rate. Right? So McCree has a fall-off range of 22 meters. McCree's fall-off range starts at 22 meters and ends at 35 meters. So wherever possible, you want to be... Oh my god, Arrow. You want to be sitting at 22 meters because the shots will actually be easier to hit. Things will move slower. They will be smaller on your screen, yes, but they will move slower on your screen, and you'll still be doing your maximum damage. So you really don't want to get... And this is a very, very common mistake on Tracer as well. And Tracer's fall-off range is actually surprisingly far at 10 meters. And it's a range at which the spread is going to have more of an impact than the fall-off itself. But if it makes it easier for you to hit your target, it's fine to be fighting things at like 12 meters on Tracer, because if you just hit more shots compared to being unable to track a target closer to you, then it's A, easier, and just B, more effective. The chance of you being able to perfectly track an individual's head when they are so close to you that your spread pattern will actually be the size of their head hitbox is so impractical, it's impossible. And it will also put you within a lot of danger. So, your optimal range engagements. You want to be positioning yourself where you can always engage in your optimal range as well.
0 to 3. Switching sides. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Uh-oh. We lost control of chat. We lost control of chat. If you're talking about like actual good engagement rates for Tracer, about 7 to 8 meters are good because then you're perfectly
We will probably see a Widow.
blink
yeah.
distance away from a target so that you can actually kind of like blink melee, things like that. So being in blink, like perfect blink range of your target is
Quinn, if you
actually
wanna-
very
you can
optimal
heal
for
if you
Tracer
want,
for a
and I can play
large
Ryan,
number of
if you
reasons.
like.
You're still within
Yeah,
your
if you
fall
want
off.
to.
You're far enough away that tracking becomes easier. Spread isn't too much of an impact so far. And then you can do a lot of combos with blinks. You can both escape with a single blink and engage hard with a single blink like melee cancel or something like that. So if you're Tracer, engaging things at a distance where a single blink and melee will hit is what I would consider optimal. But yeah, if you play Tracer and you're like plat or gold, try in your next game just one thing. I just want you to try and be farther away from your targets. You will find that you use fewer blinks and you'll
Looks quite
still be able
nasty.
to kill things. So if you play Tracer in gold or platinum, relax. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you need to be right up into somebody's face. Just sit a little
Okay,
bit
let's all
farther
go
back.
through the shot.
How do you measure distance in games?
Don't bother with the
Practice.
main door at all. Just come
You can
straight
kind of
back.
get a reference based off of a practice. Fucking.
Nice shot, Widow.
You can measure things out in like a practice. Oh my god. Thank God he's.
Thank you, Mercy.
Oh wow. Unlucky. Hey, you're gonna do it. You're gonna open an angle.
Shield's
Look at
busted.
you. Look at you, Mr. Widow player. I like it.
Ryan asleep.
I'm down.
I don't like that. That's unfortunate. But that was great, right? So the front line was on the left. You
back
positioned
up.
yourself onto the high right, which was great because you had your different sight line,
Oh,
both
healer's
onto
dead.
the tanks, onto the back line. And if assuming you hadn't died, just the threat of you being there is such a huge impact that the threat alone can control an
Right out.
opponent's positioning. That's unfortunate.
That's fine.
Take
That's a wasted ult from then.
What if I'm not in gold or plat? Do I still have hope? Yeah, absolutely. Unlockers.
Locked.
Shield's dead.
There's no hope in the Shadow Realm called Silver.
Can anybody
Arrow,
break
you
Ryan
can't
shield
say
so I can
that.
shatter?
Nice shot.
Ryan's dead.
So, one thing to note here, right? So this is what I'm talking about here, is that even if you're, I'm not sure if you're back here just because you think there might be more shots to take or whatnot, but you always want to be moving forward, controlling more sight lines. Because if we go to Stat Banana, so if you are holding here on Widowmaker, right? How much of the map do you actually control? You control that sight line, and it's not even that thick. You probably control a line like that. That's really all of the map you control. If you move up to here even, you now control this much map. If you move on to here, you control this much map. If you move here, you control this much map, right? So you hit your shot, great. But now you know that your team already has the advantage, so you don't really have to worry about them. Keep trying to be as aggressive as your mechanics will allow to try and threaten, even if you don't kill, threaten as much of the map as possible to give yourselves as many opportunities as possible to find shots, find targets, find opportunities. Where are we? Here.
Ryan's dead.
I am taking the objective. Reinforce it.
Your team got it. All of you should be Blizzard
Don't go
World
after it,
experts
Jay,
after
but,
this stream.
Objective A captured. Escort the payload.
So think about it right now. So their Reinhardt and their Zed are a big bad scary boy, but what is actually stopping you from just grappling right up on top of that turret behind them? Or if that's not a possibility, why not flank down in the bottom right corner? The bottom right corner by the Mega. But just sitting here, right? They can use natural cover, they can use their shield. So you can sit here, sure. But if you want to try and open an angle, you can look for a flank on the right side. And if they try and push you, you grapple to a Mega. Happy days.
Half growth.
Get you behind.
Sorry, Ashley.
Good little block from you, Reinhardt. Ah, that's unfortunate. Pro tip, recognize when a trap is used offensively, which is meant it's actually meant to kill somebody, and when a trap's second purpose is to actually provide scouting information. For example, moving back to Stat Banana. Let's go to Li Zhang. Li Zhang. Control Center. Okay, so if you are playing Ryan Junkrat here, so your Ryan is holding fucking, I don't know, here? Yeah, let's say here, something like that. If you place, like, where would you place a Junkrat trap? So you're a Junkrat. Where do you place your trap? I don't even remember how to add traps. Left stairway. Like here? On the ground. Oh, shit. Wow, you're right. It should be on the ground. Click on the Junkrat. Hey, there we go. Trap. Trap here. Trap there. You just trap everywhere because apparently Junkrat has 4 traps now. Perfect. But actually, though, would you trap here? We'll call this A. Would you trap here? Is this B? Would you trap here? This is C. Would you trap here? This is D. Would you trap? Yeah, we'll just say that. We'll just say that those are the 4 trap locations. Where's my mouse? Where's my mouse? There it is. Where do you trap? Let me separate the poll. Give me a second. No, this isn't attacking. This is defending. I see that some of you guys are confused. This isn't attacking. This is defending against the Reinhardt who's pushing in. So the Reinhardt is pushing in from here. You have won the point. It's in your control. You are defending against a team that's attacking. Did the poll turn on? There you go. Tell me where you trapped, chat. Yes, yes, yes. We've pushed up too far as Ryan. It's not optimal. You should be holding shuttle. Yes, yes, yes. We yes. So yeah, if you were to talk about like the absolute optimal trap themselves, D is a great option. And D is a great option here because regardless of whether or not the opponent flanks through B or through long, they have to go through this door. And regardless of whether they step in the trap or destroy it, this provides your team information that it would otherwise have been in the fog of war and you wouldn't have known. Unless you have a perfect count of the opponent, then this area is always a question mark. But if you have a trap and it is triggered or destroyed, then you know an opponent is flanking. So, what am I trying to say here is if you see or if you encounter a Junkrat trap on a flank, don't kill it. You're giving your position away. At the higher levels, Junkrats will use traps as scouting. Absolutely will. B is honestly probably more practical. D will take you out of the fight for longer. And if an opponent tries to push into you, and let's say that your Reinhardt gets pushed back and their Reinhardt pushes forward, or if their Reinhardt decides to go this direction, like either their backline's going to rotate up to B if the fight does break out across this line, or if they decide that you've got too strong of a front line and they try and flank, this can catch them in rotation. So B or D are both perfectly acceptable answers. B is probably more practical, whereas D is like the theoretically perfect trap location if we're talking about scouting. B could be destroyed by people going through main, though. Absolutely. It has its pluses and minuses. D takes you a really far way out of the actual main traveled path in order to set that trap up. Is the probably 12, 15 seconds it takes you to set that trap up worth it for your damage to not be applied at the choke? Maybe not. Who knows? Things to consider, though. Things to consider.
Genji's working his way to the back.
I will keep you here.
Remove vote. Thank you.
Get top.
Alright, reset a bit.
I'm down, but he isn't dead.
We're all up down, just dying with them.
Back to McCree.
Dispense itself.
My ultimate is charging.
It's Baku says, this happened on Junkertown, Philly vs. Boston, where mistakes avoided killing a trap in Mega Room to flank Junkrat. FPS is pretty bad now on my side? Hopefully not.
Genji behind ulting.
He's sleep.
Stunned.
That works.
That's fine, they've just wasted a few ults on that.
Double Dinkerino. Unfortunate. Again, with being, like, staying at your optimal range, like, if you were going to do that, you could have fanned, you could have, did you have flash? No, you just used flash. Came off cooldown after you died. But, not usually worth it to go for kills like that.
Changed up Genji.
Unluckers. It'll be res, though. hopefully.
On the
Back to
rest.
shield, guys.
May behind us. Since we have both Junkrat and May, we might want to pick a Pharah.
In the saddle again.
A full fan the hammer will do more than a headshot. So if a headshot won't finish, and you're not confident in landing the second headshot afterwards, like in lower elos, fanning things like full health McCree's, or not McCree's, Mays, Reapers, and Brigidas, really good use of fan the hammer in the lower elos.
60 seconds.
May's
One of the things that you should be using is both of your abilities to kite Winstons, and the fact that, yes, the flash will make it easy for a headshot, but if you flash while backing, as soon as the monkey's unstunned, you'll be out of his range. And if he somehow still is in your range, you can use your roll to, again, kite the Winston. Should have waited for as long as possible. One of the main benefits of using High Noon in a situation like that is the fact that, excuse me, High Noon will lock onto targets behind the actual shield. So if you had held that High Noon for a little bit longer and walked more to the right, then you could have actually just busted Reinhardt's shield. Even though it wouldn't have killed anybody, if there was like 4 targets that Deadeye locked onto, all 4 of those full power shots, because even like Deadeye ramps up, right? It ramps up. It ramps up to 200 pretty quickly, and then after that, it ramps up continuously, but at a slower pace, but more continuously. So even if the target, the skull, is locked on, if you're going for a shield break High Noon, you wait until the last possible second on your High Noon to pull the trigger. So if there's 4 targets, even if 3 of those are squishies with 200 HP, each bullet actually leaving McCree's gun will do like 600, 800, something like that. Because it's been ramping up as soon as it started locking on. So you can easily 2,000 to 0 a Reinhardt shield if you wait long enough and there's targets visible behind the shield. What if the target gets covered, then the shot doesn't fire? But, right, they didn't have any cover, so if he had taken the time to walk to the right, had more skulls, boom, Rein's shield is done. Free Earth Shatter. And they had Earth Shatter, too. Nice cancel.
Test.
Unluckers.
Unlucky.
Unlucky. Indeed, Mr. Vodman. Unlucky indeed.
I'm actually kind of glad that.
What the fuck is wrong with your mouse, dude?
Sound salty, but. Yep.
Bam! Good stuff. Well, that was quite the tangent. We haven't been on a tangent that severe in a long time, but I guess. Okay. I've finished feeding my way from low plat to 2100. That's quite the drop. I watch a lot of your VODs and recently your stream and feel like I understand what you're saying when watching the